Hello everyone, welcome to this session. I am Sanyukta Saxena and this series is about fragments. Fragment is nothing but something put inside a grid, or what we also called as a reticula, or reticulum in Zentangle terminology. So this something is basically tangles fitted inside a particular grid. So there are two ways to play around with fragments. One is by fitting it into different grids, and one is by wearing the tangles themselves, right? So both ways they are capable of forming different kind of meta patterns, right? If you play around with the grid and put in the same tangles inside different grids, they will form different meta patterns. You play around with the basic fragment, right? Try new fragments every time you create different variations of the same fragment, then also you create different meta patterns. But fragments and reticula is basically about fitting in certain tangles in different arrangements to create beautiful meta patterns or different kind of patterns using the same set of tangles every time. So that's the fun part. So it opens a whole team number of opportunities, whole plethora of opportunities for us to play around with, to experiment, to explore new things, right? So today is our first session of the series, and we are going to first understand the basics. Start with drawing a simple tile, and then probably as we progress we will complicate a little, try beautiful tiles compositions using different kind of fragments in different reticula, right? When I say reticula, I mean grid. So let's get started. I have a square tile in front of me. I'm mostly going to be working in black and white during this series, and today's fragment is mainly mocha based. So if this is the square grid, so I'm going to be working on this fragment today, right? So in case you had a look at my teaser that I posted on my Instagram, so this is what I used there, right? So it is basically mocha arranged in this fashion, which makes it a fragment. Again, why a fragment? Because depending on in what grid you put it in, whether you draw it clockwise or you draw it anti-clockwise, it will form different meta patterns depending on its usage, right? So let's start first and then we'll explore more and more, right? So every fragment in Zentangle has a number, right? Depending on basically the primer volume 1 gives a particular number to every fragment. So I will give the reference number of the fragment at the end of the session, but first let's learn how to use these fragments. And today being the first session, let's keep it a little simple, right? So I'm going to zoom in a little bit and going to start with a simple square grid, right? 2, 3, 4. So I made 4 divisions, and again I'm going to go with 4 horizontal lines, right? All this is pencil work. You may not ink your reticulum, right? So I have drawn a square grid with my pencil, and now I'm going to start right away with my fragment, which is mocha arranged in this fashion. So what I'm doing is I'm going anti-clockwise and drawing mocha inside my square grid like this. Now the inside space is just like cadent. If you remember, we know a Zentangle original tangle called cadent, which starts with these 4 orbs, or you can also start with squares, and then you join these with an S shape, the classic S stroke of Zentangle. So you can say this shape is that of the shape inside a cadent, right? So again, whole lot of things that you can do inside this shape also, but this is the basic fragment, right? So let's proceed. So I'm now going to continue drawing this fragment. Now it is up to us, how do we want to proceed? You can either go in the opposite direction, right? Here I went like this, now I can start like this also, right? Again, starting from here. So you can see I'm forming this heart kind of shape in between. Yeah, that's when I change the direction of the fragment. It's okay, you can draw behind also, right? So just by changing the direction, I have created a different meta pattern. You can go clockwise also, you can go with the same direction also. I'll show you how. Again, change the direction, again changing the direction. Keep rotating your tile, don't move your hand much. Again, come back. So why I did like this? To get this heart kind of a shape in between. However, if you stick to one direction, you will form a different kind of a pattern. Yeah, let me show you. So what I am talking about is, if this is the square grid, right, and this is only one grid that I am talking about, right? So what I am talking about is, if this is a square grid, one of the type of grid, you can vary the grid, and I draw the fragment like this, and I draw the second one in the opposite direction, which is what I have done in this tile. Right? So this is the kind of meta pattern you are forming. Now taking the same grid, if I change the direction of my fragment, I get a different tangle or a pattern. Tangle is mocha here, but mocha itself arranged in different ways, in different reticulars, and within itself is capable of forming different meta patterns. And in this one I retain the same direction. Right, so going anti-clockwise like this, and I create a different kind of a pattern. Here this is a heart shape, and here the shape is different. Yeah, inside is again cadent only, right? But here the direction of cadent has changed. Here they are both in the same direction, right? Back to our tile. I am now going to continue in the same fashion, right? So keep changing the position of your tile. Don't change your hand position much. Yeah. So I'm going to continue like this. You can see the cadent shape inside and the heart shape, kind of a heart shape, not exactly, but the shapes are different every time. Yeah. So I'm going to continue like this. So I'm continuing in the same fashion, again going up, coming down. Just follow the same sequence, you will not get confused. Keep rotating your tile and follow the same sequence. And when you go to the next one, make sure you complete the heart shape. That's how I am doing it. Yeah. Yeah. So that's our reticular border. Now the next thing that I'm going to do is ink this inside space. So we are drawing a simple tile today, warming up, understanding what is fragment all about. When I say fragment, I mean tangles arranged in different kind of grids, forming different kind of meta patterns depending on the grid in which they are placed, or even by varying their arrangement inside the grid. Yeah. So now let's draw a simple tangle called demi inside. I think it is by CZT Sanyukta. So what I did is drew a square grid, then a diagonal line, and then drawing a square, smaller square inside, such that the line just cuts the square, the inner square also diagonally. So this line is diagonal to both the outer and the inner square, and then just ink one section of the square. This is the tangle demi. The way it is, there are so many variations to this tangle. It can also be used as a fragment. Just by varying the position of this tangle inside the square grid, you can vary or create different meta patterns, right? So pick up your boulder nib. I'm going to pick up my O8. Yeah, I have picked up my O8 now and going to ink each of these squares in the same way, or you can vary it by inking different sections in each of the squares. Yeah, but right now the focus is on the fragment, although this tangle itself can be used as a fragment since it is inside a square grid, right? So any tangle that you use inside a grid, just by varying its grid or its arrangement, you can create different kind of meta patterns, and that's what the whole study of reticula and fragments is all about. And you can imagine the kind of variations and different kind of tangles that you can create. So it opens up whole lot of opportunities for you just by exploring different reticulums, right? So I'm just going to ink all these in the same fashion. You can see the boldness that it adds. As I keep saying, always keep one tangle having bold inking. Yeah, so I'll do all in the same way, or you can do it differently. Yeah, so I'm on the last one now, inking my demi. Once you start drawing a tangle, make them your own. I love to call them my demi, although it is a tangle by another CZT, but since I'm drawing it, it is mine now. Yeah, so give that personal touch to every tangle and see how the look varies, how the same tangle is drawn differently by different people. Yeah, so that's demi. You can see the drama that it adds. Now coming back to our fragment. Now you can either keep it the way it is, or you can add small little things, right? For example, you can add these flux, and you can ink the rest of the space, or you can add anything else that you feel like. Yeah, small little things. So I'm going to continue this for all, just adding one flux leaf, a dot, and inking the remaining space. Yeah, like this. So just continue. You can first add these petals, and then you can come back and ink each. If you feel like adding something else, please go ahead. Right, so just going to ink these in between spaces. Always a good idea to go back and fill up these small intersectices. They add a lot to the look of your tangle. Yeah, so I'll quickly do that. You can comfortably do that at your own pace, but make that effort and fill in the small little intersectices. So I'm doing the same exercise on the other side also. Yeah. Take your time and slowly fill each of these places with a petal shape or tangled flux. Yeah. So once we are done with that, the next shape that we have with us is this heart shape and then the cadent. Right, so the cadent, I'm just going to add one more kind of fragment, which is looks like thick and thin lines, something like we draw for gorgeous. So it is like alternating thick and thin lines. Yeah, so this portion I'm going to keep it simple. Just go with some tipple. An excellent filler tangle comes very handy as far as filling spaces is concerned. So just going to go with some tipple. Again, line with some weight, plain line, again plain line, line with some weight, plain line, line with some weight. Again go with some tipple. Right, so this itself is a fragment. We will be exploring more of this also. Line with the weight, plain line, line with the weight, plain lines, alternating lines with weight and plain line. Again filling up the heart with tipple. You can add a third fragment inside it. So entirely up to you. Currently concentrating on our main fragment, which is the mocha as a fragment. Right, again tipple. So take your time, draw at your own pace. I have given you both the fillers. Add some weight to the line, straight, simple line, some weight line, simple line, some weight to the line. Right, so when I say weight, come back to the line and just like diva dance, add some hump here and there, preferably in the center. And then add an aura, again some bold lines, add an aura, again some bold line, add an aura. Yeah, so you can see we are decking up our simple fragment. And I'm going to do the same exercise for all. So this fragment is more like diva dance. auras, lines. Enjoy the process. See how simple things can look beautiful when it comes to Zentangle, right? I'm just finishing the last few, continuing in the same fashion. Thick lines, thin lines, lines with some weight, just like diva dance, auras, but in a smaller kind of space. Space is bound by grid. Yeah. I think we are done with our fragment and we are done with our drawing part. So let us now move on to shading. So I'm now going to shade the border the way it is generally. Yeah. So I'm just going to darken the two sides of my border. Yeah, and then on the other side. I think the pencil would be enough, but if you wish you can always add the grey watercolor, as I keep saying in my previous sessions also. Yeah. And as far as demi is concerned, just a slight on the sides. Right, so just take your time and now blend. Take away the chalk from the edges, right, but don't blend too much. You want the center to be white. Right, so this is the general way to shade your borders. Yeah, go to your demi, just blur the graphite. So done with my shading. Make sure the ink portions have dried up and then use your chalk pencil to highlight the center. So it's important that you stick to the edges. The graphite is confined to the edges so that your chalk looks more prominent. Yeah, I think that's about it. Use a different blender and just soften the chalk. Right, so don't forget to put your chop, sign and date your tile. Right, so I'll see you again as we continue the series on fragments. This is a simple warm-up session and we will enjoy more, explore and innovate more, play around more with fragments in our coming sessions. Right, till then, have a good time, stay safe, bye bye.